Hey there, friends. Are you getting tired of all of your conspiracy theories coming true? Are you getting tired of looking back and going, I called that one, I called that one, and I called that one? Well, here's another one you can add to your list. Federal government is allowing Glock switches into this country at a remarkable rate right now. China and Mexico have partnered up and are ushering these things in because, again, they have no resistance on the southern border, so what's there to stop them? Federal government know this is happening, and they know that these are going straight to inner cities, and gang members and those type of ilk are the ones who are taking full advantage of this open door to acquire fully automatic weapons. Here is a clip with Peter Schweitzer on a recent Blaze TV show, and I want you to see what he's discovered and he writes about in his book.
The body count is astronomical. It's fentanyl, but it's also other things that are coming across the border as well. I mean, I talk in the book about these devices. They're called Glock switches. It's about the size of a quarter. It's not very big, but it's a device that if you put it into a Glock handgun, it turns it into a fully automatic machine gun. Now, I'm a huge Second Amendment advocate. I actually have a federal permit to actually own a legitimate machine gun, so I love the Second Amendment. But what's going on here, Mark, is the Chinese are smuggling these across the border from Mexico into the United States, and our government says they are specifically targeting these devices to criminal gangs in the United States, drug dealers, gang leaders, with the design purpose to sow violent chaos on America's streets. And the rate of machine gun fire in the United States over the last 5 years has gone up more than 5,000% in America's cities. You can go on YouTube and simply search for Glock switch police, and you are going to see horrific videos of police officers across the United States driving down the street, and suddenly they're subjected to machine gun fire. And these are gang members using these Glock switches that are being produced in Mexico with China's help and being smuggled across the border into the United States, into the open borders.
So we have a 5,000% increase of fully automatic machine gun fire in this country, overtaking the numbers right now. We're not talking about people at gun ranges. We're talking about people in inner cities shooting at each other with these Glock switches. Little small switches on the back of a Glock makes it fully automatic instead of semi-automatic. There are reasons why the federal government and politicians in general are okay with this. In fact, the anti-gun lobby loves this as well. Why? Because it draws a negative light on something that can be indirectly tied to us legal law-abiding gun owners who have no intent or no desire to commit any kind of a crime with either fully automatic or semi-automatic firearms. But it doesn't matter. Guilt by association, right? One of the reasons why this is allowed to happen is there is a current bill on the books to repeal the NFA. This is a good way to say that, oh, well, the NFA is the thing that is preventing every single American out there to just acquire a fully automatic machine gun. Why would we repeal this if we have a 5,000% increase in machine gun fire? Now, the mention will never be in this fight to keep the NFA as to where these crimes are being committed with these fully automatic Glock switches and who's using them. Yeah, they're going to make you think that Billy on his farmland is shooting up a whole bunch of people, a bunch of signs in grocery stores and things like that, and that's where the problem is. They're not going to tell you that these Glock switches are going straight into these inner cities and being used in crimes by gang-related people, or at least people who like to think of themselves as gang members. They're not going to tell you that because this has to be viewed as a problem that's infiltrated every single fabric of the American community. It can't be looked at as a specific problem because if it is, then they could easily go to these specific areas and combat that problem. They don't want to do that. Why? Possibly fear of going into those areas. No one has ever accused the ATF or many of these law enforcement people of being brave. They try to avoid these high crime problems in these high crime areas. So this is a way for them to give the impression that this is a huge problem nationwide. If you could actually draw a map of the hot spots of these machine gun fire spikes, you would easily see it in the most recognizable of cities across this country. So as long as we have repeal the NFA type bills out there, this is a useful tool for them to allow these to continue to come in. Now, what is the other evil side of this plan? Because it is a plan. Let's face it. Let's use this analogy of a home with a whole bunch of money inside of it. If the owner of the home goes to the front door, unlocks it, props it open, turns the porch light on, and yells, "This door is no longer locked. And if you try to come in here, we're not going to stop you. We're not even going to try to stop you. We won't even try to slow you down. And we don't care what you bring in the house. Just come on in." And if they come in, you escort them through the house, bring them to the kitchen, sit them down, let them unload their fentanyl, their Glock switches, and take all the money that you have. Then you shine a spotlight on them and say, "Hey, we got a problem. This is the problem right here. Wait a minute. Didn't you unlock the door? Didn't you escort them through the door? Didn't you yell out into the yard that they and all their friends could come in? We would allow you to come in?" You wait until they get into the kitchen. You wait until they start committing crimes. And then you say, "We got a problem?" The extreme left has long fought to try to outlaw AR-15s, and it hasn't worked. The reason why it hasn't worked is because they are not often used in crimes. They're just not. You may hear of a high-profile crime every now and then that is using one, but if you take the numbers statistically and look at them, you will find that they are a super low percentage. Less than 4 and 5% of crimes being committed out there are used with rifles, or especially AR-15s. They actually categorize those crimes by rifles, and AR-15s make up an even smaller group of that group of rifles. So it's even lower than what you think. So whenever the wackos on the far left are trying to outlaw AR-15s, they can't provide any support data to say that it truly is a problem. You can only lie about it for so long before somebody calls you on it and says, "Well, provide the data and tell me it's a problem. Show me where it's a problem." And then they fall on their face. They can't at that point. But you know what is used a lot and always has been? Semi-automatic handguns. That is the number one choice of criminals in this country. It's also the number one choice for self-defense for us. Why does that matter? It matters because if you can capitalize on the fact that this one group of people chooses to use that, then this is what they've always done. They take everybody and throw them into the same category. Every gun owner is bad if one particular segment of that gun ownership, meaning criminals, uses a particular gun. Everybody else associated with that handgun is automatically assumed to be bad. Or at least you're going to pay for the sins of those who have been using this particular gun, this tool, in a crime. This is their way to say that we have a massively big problem with handguns. This is a way for them to shift their focus from the AR-15 to all semi-automatics. This is a way to cast a way bigger net out there. Remember, this net would also include AR-15s, which they've always wanted anyway. So by focusing on semi-automatic handguns and semi-automatics in general, you're going to have the biggest net you've ever been able to cast out there. Whenever they calculate which guns are the problem in their eyes, you have to understand they don't separate just because it had a Glock switch. Now that doesn't take it from a semi-automatic gun being used in the commission of a crime. Now they're getting a ding in both categories: Glock switch, full auto, and semi-automatic handgun. So they're going to, and they like this, encourage that spike in handgun crime because they realize they have such a large gap to fill with AR-15s. Even if they handed every single criminal an AR-15 out there, there's such a small percentage of people using AR-15s in crimes, they have a massive gap to fill. But guess what? They already have the leader of the pack in the handguns. Why not just build those numbers up, right? If it's going to take out the AR-15 anyway, what does it matter if we see an AR-15 used in the commission of a crime? If we can build these numbers up that are already high, inflate them even more. Make them seem more deadly. Oh, now they're fully automatic. Now we got fully automatic handguns out there. Yes, that would still include the semi-automatics because remember, these same Glocks that we're talking about, that these people are putting the Glock switches on to make them fully automatic, they were sold as a semi-automatic. So I know what you're thinking. Well, wait a minute. If they're using fully automatic, Let's just pass another law, right? Isn't that what they always say? Let's pass another law to make it more illegaler. Well, no, that's not what they're even looking at. They really don't care about the fully automatic. They honestly don't. They know that they're not a problem. The goal was these all along. If we can make sure that people understand that these aren't made fully automatic. Oh, we don't have any control over the border. The Chinese and the Mexicans partnering up to provide Glock switches to put on these. We have no control over that. We're sorry. This is a problem that's out of our hands. But we can control the amount of semi-automatics out there. So they restrict these to try to prevent them from becoming fully automatic, and they solve the problem, right? I'm being facetious. No, that doesn't solve any kind of a problem. The mind still decides it wants to kill and commit crime. That's where it started. It had nothing to do with this. This was a byproduct. This was simply a selection that was made along the way after the mind already decided what it wanted to do. Let me tell you something. With our federal government having this type of plan, because it is planned out, between the fentanyl, the sex trafficking, and all the things that are happening to our country from this southern border, this stuff right here with the Glock switches just being allowed to infiltrate into our country because it is a necessary evil by the wackos on the extreme far left, that is the definition of evil. Knowing that you are going to amass a body count and fear of people across this country simply to attain a political goal.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's so